旅の情報番組 Go West。 今週はスペシャルバージョンとしてロサンゼルスでダンスのインストラクターを務めるある男性の話をお送りします。
短編映画ダンシングフォーライフの制作監督をしました朝日ハリウッドプロダクションの青井ゆかりと申します。今日はダンスの先生、主人公のリチャード先生に来ていただきました。こんにちは。
こんにちは。
ダンシングフォーライフは私のボールルームダンスの先生リチャード・クロトーの波乱に富んだ半生を描いています。彼はカナダのケベックというフランス語だけを話す小さな村からプロのアイススケーターとしてアメリカで活躍しました。その後ボールームダンサーとして全米チャンピオンに何度も選ばれました。エイズという大病を患いながらも誰よりもアクティブに、そしてポジティブに生きる彼は私の心のメンターでもあります。そして彼の周りの人たちをインスパイアして多くの影響を与えています。彼のモットーとする Do it now、 今すぐ行動しようよという言葉が本当に心に響きます。それでは先生からも一言。
My name is Richard Coteau and I've been teaching ballroom dancing for over 30 years. I'm very lucky as I have a handful of Japanese students that I teach in Los Angeles, but most of all, I've been going to Tokyo every winter time to teach American ballroom style. I love the Japanese people and also the Japanese culture. I teach a lot in Los Angeles, and I love to teach as it is my passion, because in life, you have to do whatever you like, you have to do it now. You don't want to wait, you have to fulfill your dream. So do it now.
Do it now。 本当に心に響く言葉ですね。ぜひ最後までご覧になってください。
So please, watch my movie until the end, and hopefully you will be inspired. I started dancing when I was about 6, 7, because in Canada, in Quebec, we all grow up ballroom dancing. We all kind of do social dancing. It's kind of like in the nature, kind of more like European. So I actually don't remember. I was very young and I was going out dancing and learning how to cha-cha and line dancing and all that stuff, round dancing. It's very popular there. So I danced pretty much all my life, really, since I was born.
Richard is a warm spirit. And he's very giving, he's very caring, he cares about all his students, and he motivates them.
I think Richard's a great example of a good teacher. It first of all takes patience, it takes insight, not just to the craft of dancing, I think it takes insight into human beings.
And that's one of the reasons I love to teach, because I myself love to learn different feelings or do different life situations. So that's why I think I like to teach my students to make them enjoy different aspects of life and feeling. I lived in a small town. My parents were actually pretty poor. We actually slept like 2 or 3 in a room. You know, I have 5 siblings, so there's 6 of us. So, I mean, all I remember her, and my mom hates me for it, is like, why are we so poor? Why are we so poor? I used to always say that because, you know, I wanted to have nice clothes, I wanted to do nice things, but we had no money to do anything. When I was young, I hated it. So when I was 15 years old, I was old enough to do it myself and pay for it, so I went. You know, I got beaten, I got laughed at, I got pushed, you know. Everything happened because boys don't skate. You know, in a small village, boys supposed to play hockey. I always say, you know, it feels like I was born at the wrong place, at the wrome time. I used to say, I'm going to take a plane, travel far away, and I'm never going to come back.
Dorothy, Dorothy. Ice Capades presents Dorothy Hamill. She's
I was in college at that time in a big city. I was studying accounting. Escapades came in and they had auditions. So I auditioned and I was accepted. And so I just signed up, finished my degree and packed and left. Once we toured, I went back to not my hometown, but where I went to college, Sherbrooke University. And so it was fun because then they had like buses from my little village that came up. All my family, uncle and aunt and friends from school and everything came to see me. And that was actually really fun. The mayor gave me the key of the town, and I had the newspaper article, so for like 5 minutes I was popular. When I was on the tour, I met some people from Los Angeles. And, I kind of got friendly with these 2 girls from LA. And they said, oh, why don't you come and, visit and stay with us? You can stay with my dad, maybe you can work for him. He has a store, a leather store at Knott's Berry Farm. So I says, okay. So I came. And actually at that time during the tour, I was kind of dating her. She had a boyfriend at home. She was kind of dating both of us. I knew, but he didn't know, so I had to hide and everything. It got pretty messy. I got very depressed because she was like, well, my boyfriend knows now and my dad is upset, so, he doesn't want you to work for the store anymore. So it's better for us now that you move out of the house. In one shot, my life fell apart. No more work, no more place to live, no more love. I lost everything. Did I want to go back to a small village where everybody beat me up and laughed at me? I went to a park in Orange County area at that time, and I had a truck, from the Father Lumiere truck, and I put a hose to the gas. Of course, it's also a cry for help, because you wouldn't commit suicide if you feel powerful and empowered and strong. So you're helpless, so you don't know what to do, and you think it will never get better. I woke up in the emergency room, and then all I can remember is the nurse saying, oh, you're so cute, you're so gentle, why did you try to do it, and everything. And it's a long story, but I was there for like quite a few days, because you learn really quick. Once you're in the Looney Tune, you're in the hospital, the crazy house, you actually cannot get out right away. And this lady offered me to go to live in her house when I got out of the hospital.
And she told me that she had a roommate that was an excellent ice skater who loved to dance. And at that point, I was actually looking for a new teacher. We just really hit it off. He was obviously from Canada, and his main priority then was skating, but he was also a pretty good dancer at the time.
A free dance lesson. That was what drew me into London Studio. And Pat, the owner of the studio, interviewed me and says, oh yes, I've got a good teacher for you. She says, Richard. And here comes this little boy loping over. He looked like he was about 15, maybe 18 years old. And I was horrified. Here I am, an older woman, a mature woman, and here comes this little boy who's going to teach me something. I stayed with him for 25 years.
And that's how I actually first got involved with ballroom dancing. As a teacher, I ballroom danced all my life. And then I kind of built my career, and I was able to move out of there and then make a living.
Richard got very close to one of his students. Her name is Roberta.
When I came to the studio, I wanted to learn how to dance. I was very conservative, so to be able to dress up and be something else was something that helped me to get out of my shell. And we started competing. That's when it really hit me that, wow, I can dance. I fell in love with him, and we ended up getting married. To me, it was one of the most memorable days. He cried, I cried when we were exchanging vows and everything. And we didn't have much, but we had a small apartment, and I don't know, I was happy.
I still learn something new at every lesson. It's amazing. I've seen Richard when he teaches me. I've seen Richard when he teaches a lot of his different pupils. He teaches us all differently because it's not a book that you can read and do it that way. It's something that has to be emotional, it has to be sensual, it has to be physical, it has to be so many aspects of what we are. So he encompasses all of that.
He's been a part of our family for 19 years, and it's been wonderful to be with him and dance with him. I've enjoyed him so much.
My business partner at the time was a gentleman called Martin Blaney, who I had actually come over from England with to open a studio here.
He was kind of like, he was national champion.
And Martin was also an amazing dancer, one of the best ballroom dancers in England at that time. And he and Richard became very good friends, as we all did.
So he was kind of very flamboyant and out there, and I guess he got a liking to me. I had an affair with him, and then, you know, he wanted to leave his lover, you know, and I would leave Roberta and we would go together.
I came from a small town, so I wasn't really familiar with homosexuality. When Richard finally admitted that he was gay, it was hard on me mentally because I thought, what did I do wrong?
He wanted to come out and be gay and be openly gay, that everybody knew, that he didn't have to hide it.
The first question they always asked me, well, did you know he was gay when I married him? And I was like, no, I didn't know he was gay. Because he was born Catholic, they thought he was going to be a priest. And he had the thoughts, I guess, pushed down the feelings. We had an active sex life, so that's what was very confusing to me also. I was in love with him. We consummated our marriage, and I said, and I was pregnant twice and never was able to carry.
So obviously it was messy. It was a big mess.
I used to tell myself it would be easier if it was another woman. It was something I could combat. I can't combat being in love with another man. He fell in love with someone else, and that's what hurt.
I don't believe in people that are married and suddenly they get divorced that hate each other. I don't believe in that. I mean, I don't see how you can love somebody and then hate them 24 hours later.
Why we started talking again, why, because after that we became really good friends, and I started dancing, competing with him again, and I traveled a lot of different places with him for competitions and for vacations.
It was difficult, you know, obviously, but I mean, now we're good friends, we're best friends. I remember being at the dance studio and I called the doctor from the studio. We didn't have cell phone in those days, and I called and, you know, the guy said, yeah, you're positive, and hung up. I was diagnosed with AIDS, you know, with full-blown AIDS right away, so that was kind of a shock. I lost my sight, part of my sight in my right eye, and I was very sick in 1989. In those days, you could only take AZT. That's the only meds you could take, and it made you sick and everything, and most people didn't live anyway.
They told him, you have to take this medicine. It made him so ill, but he kept taking it.
A lot of people always ask me, weren't you upset that he gave it to you, you know? I mean, he didn't do it on purpose. We didn't know.
And Martin, on the other hand, was not so dedicated to taking the medicine because it made him so ill, didn't take it, and died.
Martin was scared of dying, and I always say it's horrible, horrible, horrible. Horrible to see somebody that's so scared of dying. What can you do? You cannot say, oh, it's fine. Well, it's not fine, they're dying. He chose to not take his medication, not take care of him because he was scared or whatever the reason are, and I call it committed slow suicide. I choose to go right, you know, and I think because I tried to commit suicide before, I thought, I don't want to go there, I want to live. I choose right and want to live.
And when I was in Hawaii dancing competition, he got sick, and he had a high fever, and I took care of him, but he was so bad. But his mind is very strong.
He has maintained his health, his good health, I must say, through dancing.
He does exactly what he's supposed to do in taking care of his health. and he just lives his life like he doesn't have anything wrong with him. He doesn't complain about it. He's just extremely positive. He still dances. In fact, even when he knew he had, HIV and he was sick at times, he was competing, dancing. Competed all over the country, represented the United States in lots of competitions. Even sick as he was sometimes, he would get out there and dance. They always placed in the final. He's just an extremely strong person. Very, very dedicated, strong-willed person.
I never thought I would live past 2000. So, you think, oh, okay, I want to live until then. So you kind of take 1 year at a time and you just live and just do whatever it takes.
There were times where he'd get sick, and I lived here in Orange County, and I would run to LA to take care of him, stay there a couple of days and take care of him until he was better. So when Michael came into the picture, it was nice for me too, because I had somebody to share all of taking care of him.
Richard and I met in 1997, 12 years ago, at basically a dating service.
It was like my 10th dinner.
It was sort of speed dating, but before speed dating.
And there was like 8 people at each table, and every other person, so 4 of them were like frogs.
So that person hopped from table to table, and if you didn't have a frog, you stayed in your seat.
So between each course, the frog people would move table, so that way you get to meet a lot of people and talk to them.
He said he was a ballroom dancer.
And I had to leave early because I had to go to a party. So I remember leaving really, really quick, and before I left, Michael wasn't sitting at my table anymore, but I went to him and I gave him my business card and I said, to him, call me.
And I said, oh, okay. I was a little surprised, and he left, and that's how we met. I had a very romantic idea of wanting a boyfriend. I don't care how many rings you buy or how fancy they are, it doesn't make it happen. You can't force it. So to have somebody love you actually is a privilege. I don't want to say an honor, but it's an amazing thing. Topic of HIV came up immediately. Richard was honest from date one. I already had experience with this because in the late 80s and early 90s, I actually lost all of my best friends. We just celebrated our 12th year in December, and the date is, anniversaries are not so clear when you don't have a wedding.
I tell people I've been the healthiest lately. I used to be in the hospital and everything, and one of the reasons I'm the healthiest, obviously, is because I have a comfortable home. He cooks. He takes very good care. I always say, technically, he takes good care of me. A while ago, when I used to live on Orange, on the Overland,
Yes.
and I was very sick, and then she would come and bring me the strawberries, and she would make homemade soup. I have a lot of my, friends and student clients. They always say, I wish I could do this. I wish I would have done this when I was young. I wish I could do this. Again, I'm like, why are you wishing? Do it. Your tools need to be out. If they're in, your hips are closed. Just like Lucille, 94 years old, that I've known her for over 20 years, over my head, balancing on one hand. Now, how many 94-year-old lady do you know that dance?
You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shore.
They've all come into his life, and he's come into their life for a reason.
He's a fun person to be with, and he's a great teacher and also become my best friend.
I think he's an incredible human being. I think he's an example for all of us.
What do you remember when somebody dies? But do you have left memories, first of all? So memories, do you think, oh, I remember when I bought the car? No, you just remember when we went on this vacation and we went swimming and it was funny because this happened.
With Richard, it's almost like we take it a trip at a time. His horizon is planning the next trip. That's his big thing.
His general philosophy is to live every moment to its absolute fullest, and he does it with 100% commitment.
My friends think I overdo it. I want to live 150%. I want to overdo it, I guess. They think, I never stop or whatever. But that's who I am,
He lives his life probably more passionately than most people will ever live their lives. It's not stopped him doing anything that he's wanted to do. In fact, it's probably made him do more than he would have if he didn't have the disease.
I don't want to die yet, not yet,
毎週この時間にお送りしている旅と娯楽の番組 Go West。 さて来週はアメリカ、日本、それとも何が飛び出してくるでしょうか。ご期待ください。